The webinar is filling up. We're about halfway to the number of expected participants. So hang on for a minute or so, if that's okay, please, folks. On the basis it's a minute or two past 10, we have about 3/4 of the expected participants. So I'm going to kick off. So welcome everybody. My name is John Fisher. I'm Chief Exec of CHIC. The clue is on the slide, hopefully that you can see in front of you. Warm welcome to you for both the new legal services framework and for joining this webinar. So for the next hour, we're just going to try and take you through a bit of an overview and deal with any immediate questions that you've got. We are recording the session, so I hope you're happy with that. And we're happy to share the slides afterwards. So we will circulate slides to all participants once we finish. We get the technology to work. So I'm just going to give you a bit of background. Most of you have worked with CHIC, I think, for a while, but give you a bit of background, both to CHIC and what our current activities are. Hadi Osman is then going to take you through the lot structure and the framework agreements. And then Tim Morrell from Kennedy Cater will take you through the operation of the framework. And then hopefully we'll have some time for Q&A. Can you use the Q&A function, please? We will try and pick up any questions at the end. If you could pop them into the Q&A function on Zoom. To deal with those questions, there's actually 5 of us on the call. So from CHIC, Sam Domican, who's our Director of Procurement, Hadi, who's Head of Procurement from a CHIC point of view, and from Kennedy Cater, who are our specialist agents, we have Tim Morrell, Director, and Richard Short, Client Services Manager. So Hadi and Tim are going to do the presentations, but our other colleagues are there for any questions. The expected participants on the call, most of you are here now, come from either the legal firms who will have entered into a framework agreement or be doing so for one or more of the 4 lots, and both Hadi and Tim will take you through those a little bit later. We also have CHIC member representatives, so organisations who will be using the legal services framework, as well as some colleagues from both CHIC and from Kennedy Cater. So just a little bit about CHIC. CHIC is a member owned organisation. I'll come to governance a little bit later. It now has around 250 members operating across the UK. The map on the slide in front of us shows where their head offices are, but inevitably organisations who are principally social housing landlords, that's local authorities and housing associations, cover a much bigger geographical area, particularly in the case of the latter. So you can see from the map that we've got pretty significant coverage, particularly across England and Wales, but we do a little bit of work in Scotland and in Northern Ireland. I've talked about the number of members. We work with a whole range of supply chain partners across the services, which I'll show you in a sec that we do. We have a range of frameworks and dynamic purchasing system available to our members, but our members collectively own and manage about half of the social affordable housing certainly in England, so around 2 million homes. Not all of them use all services. Some use lots, some only use very selectively, but the reach is potentially fairly significant. And we've got about 700 current live contracts of all different types, looking after spend of around 250 million over the next year or so. We have a range of frameworks, as I've said, and generally we work across the asset management and development functions, but legal services is something, I'll come to the dates in a moment, that we've been supplying because they are complementary to the other services we provide, but they're also wider than property related work. hence our partnership with Kennedy Cater. But what we tend to provide, and the legal services framework is a good example of this, is a managed service. A lot of consortia simply sort out the procurement and then kind of you're on your own. We provide a managed service on everything that we do. So once a contract is let, we then provide a range of support services, reporting, commercial price management, and so on. And Kennedy Cater perform that task for legal services on behalf of CHIC. So our services, I'm not going to go through them all, but they cover, as I've already said, asset management and development regeneration related activities. The bottom left is where today fits in. It's the professional services, and sitting under that kind of banner, that heading, we have legal services, but we have other consultancy and related frameworks as well. So it isn't just legal services, it sits alongside other frameworks for support services and advice to our members. The purpose of CHIC, many of you will know that consortia, procurement consortia exist. There's not a huge number. Our purpose is essentially to do some of the procurement heavy lifting for our members, aggregate their buying power essentially, streamline procurement at framework level. So those of you bidding for frameworks are hopefully bidding less, spending less time on the sort of entry level of procurement, and through doing that to offer more cost-effective services through frameworks and through the management of contracts once they've actually been established. And we do monitor and measure prices and savings on behalf of members. Just from a governance point of view, CHIC is owned by its members. Each members are equal and the number can grow. To be a member, you have to be a public contracting authority, and most of our members, as I said, are housing associations or local authorities. And that doesn't just mean, particularly for local authorities, that through a framework like this, they can access housing related services, they can access a range of other stuff as well. The board that oversees CHIC's strategic direction and operational outputs has to be principally member focused. So there's 8 independents at the moment, and then we can have there are 8 member representatives, and there can be up to 3 independents. We have a couple of vacancies recently, so we're recruiting at the moment. But the important point is that CHIC is owned and governed by its members. The team provided under a contract, which I head up. I'm not going to go through the structure. Hopefully you can see it for yourselves, but an important part of our team supporting this framework is Kennedy Cater for legal services. Everything else we actually do direct, but because of the specialisms of what you do as suppliers, we use Kennedy Cater to support us for this framework. Social value, or ESG. We have a series of expectations both through the contract. So every contract procured through CHIC from a framework or dynamic purchasing system has contractual social value expectations, which are a monetary value of the annual spend of that contract. And we work with and monitor the outcomes against the contract. But we also have our own social value targets, and we have an associated charity called CHIP, Communities and Housing Investment in People, that we put funds into every year from CHIC, and that funds a range of activities, generally about getting people distant from employment into work, and funding community projects. So we try and sort of practice what we ask our partners to do as well. So legal services frameworks, we first started working with Kennedy Cater on our legal services framework in 2016. A four-year framework expired in 2020. We procured again and replaced the framework in 2020. And again, we've just done it this year. So thank you all of you for applying to and being successful in being awarded framework status for one or more of the lots. The sort of core expectations and objectives of the framework have remained the same up to version 3, but some of the detail, the lot structures, and some of the sort of underlying infrastructure that goes with them has changed and evolved a bit. So hopefully those of you who've worked with us and are members for a few years, this is continuation, but there's a few new firms, so very welcome to you as well. We're pleased to have you on board. So that's enough of me. I'm now going to pass over to Hadi, who's going to talk to you from a CHIC procurement point of view, before Tim takes you through the operation of the framework. Hadi.
Good morning, everyone. I hope you can see my slides. So I'll be focusing on the procurement journey for our third run legal services framework. So that's all I'm going to be talking about this morning, the law structure, what informed the law structure, and I will round up with the framework agreement, giving updates on where we are at with signing the framework agreement. This particular journey started with a pre-market engagement late October 2023 to understand our customer needs, their experience of the current provision as it is, and what they would like from the new framework agreement. 3 virtual engagement sessions were facilitated with Educator and inviting subject matter experts from members. The outcome of the sessions informed increasing the number of lots from 3, as we have currently, to 4. It also informed the pricing structure, the fixed fee, the variable fee, the specification with particular focus on sustainability and social value, our scoring methodology, moderation, and the reporting requirements. So what you will need to do as supplier to report on expenditure, and what you need to do in relation to reporting social value requirement on or for the framework agreement. As agreed with the stakeholder, an open letter tender was launched in January, presenting the market with the expectations for an all-inclusive framework agreement that can be awarded through a call for competition. So all the suppliers on each lot will be invited for call for competition or direct award. We are now currently, as you can see in the last 2 columns of my slide, at the stage of transition between framework award and framework management. So as I said earlier, we started in January and we've awarded by May. So all the details, it was a very detailed work. It was a thorough process with activities detailed. It was not a small feat, but it was achieved through sheer hard work by Educator and the procurement team. So here are the framework lots. So we have lot 1, the corporate governance and finance. Those who you have submitted bid, you know the detail behind each of the lots. So lot 3 was split. It was formerly development and property. It was split into 2 into development and property. This is to allow for flexibility, whereby farms on the development lots can handle onward sales or leases of new development, especially if they are not on the property lot, lot 4. Educator, my colleague from Educator, Tim Morrow, who is the director at Educator, will go into more details surrounding this lot structure during their presentation. So we had loads of suppliers interested when it was published, and this particular slide gives details of how many tenders were received per lot, how many suppliers were awarded per lot, and how many were rejected. So congratulations once again for your successful admittance onto the framework. All lots were awarded in line with the maximum allowed on the ITT tender. We said we're going to admit maximum of 12 suppliers for lot 1. 15 for lot 2 to 4. This is to give our customer breadth of experience from small and medium-sized organization to large organization with national coverage, so that they wouldn't be one for choice, and the quality of legal firms on the framework agreement are top notch, based on the additional investigation that we've done, and as part of our due diligence. So I would like to spend a little bit of time or a couple of minutes on the call for competition. When you submitted the tender, it was split into two: the quality, 60%, which includes 10% social value, and the price, which is 40%. So the framework has been established, and if there's a requirement for call for competition, it will follow similar value, and it will follow what the customer wants, and it will be through our e-tendering platform, which is the CHIC e-sourcing platform. So if you have any issue relating to using of the e-sourcing platform, please let us know. If you have details of your team members that need updating, you will need to contact CHIC e-sourcing directly to get that updated, because we don't kind of update details of suppliers. Suppliers have got direct access to update and make sure that details are up to date. So as I said, call for competition, we look at price or cost. It will include, we will compare all sorts of things depending on what the customer needs. It will be defined by the customer and led by an educator and delivered through the CHIC e-sourcing platform. Now, finally, from me, you must be pleased, is the signature. We've sent to everybody the framework agreement back in earlier this month or late last month. This is the current state of affairs. We've had 8 people return for lot 1, 9, and 8 and 10 for development and property services. If you are one of those that is yet to return your completed framework agreement, please return it as soon as possible, because we are keen to get this signed so that we can publish the contract award notice by the 1st of July, and customers can award directly from the framework agreement. If you're having any issue or you need the framework contract to be sent to another person, because at the beginning when we asked for contact details for signatories, individual legal firms provided details, but if anything has changed, just let us know so that we can update and reissue framework agreements. So the deadline is today, as per the notice that was issued. Let us know if you have any question, and we will be able to help. You can email tenders@chiclimited.co.uk, but in the cover letter for the framework agreement, we also provided additional details that you can use to ask questions. And that is it from me. My colleague Tim will go into more detail on the framework agreement regarding the pricing structure, the lotting structure, the engagement level. He will go into more details about that, because ultimately they will be managing this framework agreement on behalf of CHIC. Thank you very much. Tim, over to you. I will stop sharing now.
You are there.
Sorry.
Just waiting for you to stop sharing.
Yeah, I'm trying to, and it's just not. Yes, thank you. So I've stopped sharing.
Good morning, everybody. So my name's Tim Morell, Kennedy Cater. Some of you will already know me and know of Kennedy Cater. The first thing to say is that we are delighted to be working with CHIC again on not just the procurement, but the ongoing day-to-day management of this framework. I think when we started in 2016, it was a new venture. The framework had to be built from scratch. The CHIC membership was significantly smaller, and it's really been a fantastic success story, both in terms of the growth of CHIC, but also the use of the framework. So what I'm going to cover is an overview, and I think it's great that we've got both suppliers and members so that there's a shared understanding of what the expectations are in terms of the day-to-day management of the framework. So just a few sort of key headline points here. We've already seen the lot structure, so divided into 4 lots. And as Adi mentioned, we've split the current lot 3 property and development into 2 to give us more flexibility, to give us greater scope as well of specialist providers within those different lot work streams as well. Inevitably as well, the size of the framework in terms of the number of providers has grown, so we now have 24 firms. A key underlying element of the way that the framework will operate in terms of pricing is through fixed fees, which I'll come on to in a moment. And in addition as well, the range of value added and social value benefits that are going to be made available through the framework. And we'll talk about how they will be recorded and made available to members. So this is just a quick overview of the suppliers under each lot. You're probably already familiar with this anyway, but this is just a quick overview. So you can see the 12 suppliers on lot 1, corporate governance and finance, and then 15 each on lots 2 to 4, so housing and asset management, development and property. And the range of suppliers is important. It's already been noted that we wanted to provide members with maximum choice in terms of both larger national firms, but also some more regional firms with particular specialisms. And we're delighted with the output of that, that we've got so many fantastic firms operating through the framework. So a little bit about how the cost of using the framework. Well, there is no cost to members. There's no direct cost at all. So the pricing in the packs that are going to be distributed very shortly. So when you look at the pricing schedules, those are the rates that have been agreed. There's nothing on top, no extras, but built into those prices is a small percentage of the supplier's fees, which is a management fee, which is collected, and we'll talk about that in a moment, on a monthly basis, and that is shared between CHIC and Kennedy Cater. So that is how the remuneration works. But I think the key thing is that members should have confidence that the pricing in the schedules and or the hourly rates is the pricing that they will pay and nothing else. So how does the pricing work? Well, this is a hierarchy of the expectations in terms of pricing and the mechanism for it. So the starting point should always be the fixed fee schedule. So at the tender stage, all suppliers were asked to submit prices for quite an extensive range of fixed fees per lot. So under each lot, we have a fixed fee schedule. And going back to the point that Adi made, this was worked up or modified during the workshop to try to reflect current requirements and moving forward. So that will be the default position. So both members and suppliers should be referring to that in the first instance to try to use that and to identify the relevant fixed fee from those schedules when agreeing pricing. But it's not unusual for the scope of the work not to be covered, so that the pricing schedules aren't perhaps relevant on a matter by matter basis. Where that happens, there is an expectation and a requirement for work that's not covered from one of the items in the schedules for the work to be done on a one-off fixed or capped fee basis. So that would take into account the hourly rates that have been agreed. So if it's not in the schedule, agree a one-off fixed or capped fee for that particular piece of work. And then finally, if that's considered to be inappropriate and not suitable, then hourly rates can apply. But that has to be done with the agreement of the member. So the supplier would set out the reasons why they think that that's reasonable, provided the member's content with that. That would be a final solution. But as I say, that is a hierarchy. So it's starting off with the fixed fees, then moving to a one-off fixed or cap fee, and then finally hourly rates. So the pricing in the schedules is split between those two elements: fixed fee schedules, and then secondly hourly rates, so that members can quickly identify the relevant pricing for each supplier. The framework is non-exclusive. That isn't something that we particularly promote, but nonetheless, it is worth just sort of noting that, because we would like to see as much spend as possible going through the framework, but recognizing that some members may have other arrangements in place, either that they wish to maintain or that they want to transition away from. So that's fine, but we, as I say, we would like to see the members moving more and more of their spend through the framework. And in fact, that has been a feature of the current framework, and the one before that, is that we're seeing more and more members using it, but increasingly those members that are putting more and more of their spend through this framework, which I think sort of underscores the success of the frameworks and how relevant and appropriate they are for their day-to-day needs. So coming to using the framework, so once that decision's been made, there are two options: direct call-off or mini competition. And if any contracting body, i.e. the member, decides to source any of the services through the framework, then through this agreement, then it may, in its sole discretion, so it's entirely a matter for the member, award work without reopening competition or via a mini tender. So direct award, this is, I would say, the solution or the route to procuring services that is used in the vast majority of cases. So it's the most economically advantageous solution for the services, as deemed or judged by the member. So it's not just about price. So members can take into consideration other factors when making their choice. They can also approach a number of firms to get an assurance about who could do the work, that they've got availability, and some kind of fee estimate before making that decision. Where the contract award, though, is significant, and in this case in excess of 179,000 for a particular contract award through the framework, then the member and CHIC will agree a business case just to provide some evidence and some good reasoning as to the choice of supplier that has been selected for that particular award. If the member wants to undertake a mini competition, then they can do that with the support of Kennedy Cater. We're here throughout that process. The criteria that they can adopt can be different from the original tender award. So it doesn't have to be using the same weightings. We have some templates to support that. We do find that using a mini competition is quite often used in a couple of scenarios. Either it's a very large piece of work, fees are going to be significant, or perhaps the member wants to appoint one firm to undertake a sole supply contract for a particular specification of work. So when that arises, we're there to help them with the drafting of the mini tender documentation, looking at the evaluation criteria, the specification, and so on. But that is a process that is then run through CHIC e-sourcing, rather than coming through Kennedy Cater. So CHIC has their new e-sourcing platform, and that is the appropriate route for that. But we would advise on a matter by matter basis as that potential mini competition arises. For direct awards, there is a call-off order form in the pack that all members will receive. This is an extract from it, so it just captures all of the key information, and we think this is best practice. It just confirms that the instruction is via the CHIC framework, and this would be completed as far as it can be by the member, sent to the relevant law firm to confirm the details. The pricing obviously is a key element of that, any key milestones, delivery dates, and so on. And they would countersign that and return that to the member, so that there is a record from both sides that captures the instruction. Moving on to value-added benefits. In the tender, we had a number of mandatory contractual requirements which all firms had to agree to. First is free training commensurate with member spend. So these would be bespoke sessions either at the firm's offices or the members' offices, or more often these days online, and also access to general training sessions as well. 20 minutes free advice for every potential new instruction. There's some more detail on that in a moment. And then in addition to that, which wasn't evaluated, but nonetheless, all of the firms were invited to provide some details of additional benefits that they would provide. There are, and they will vary from firm to firm, but there are additional value-added benefits, and these are just some of the examples on the screen here that are available. But they are quite extensive. The firms have been quite creative as ever with some of the benefits that are available. So members will need to look at that database when it comes over in the pack to see what's appropriate. To help with the training, we send out a weekly newsletter to all users of the framework. So it will be important that we capture all of the key contact details from the members. So once a week, we will ask firms to provide us with all new upcoming training. It goes into a newsletter. It's divided under the 4 lot headings to help members to identify the areas that they think might be most appropriate to them. And that will be refreshed on a weekly basis. So all new items will be highlighted for ease of reference. And again, this will be in the directory of documents. Moving to social value, this has become an increasingly important element of all of the contracts that CHIC runs. And as you saw from John's opening presentation, that's become very prominent. And there's a lot of work that's been done within CHIC to identify the key areas that they want to support. And these all included as elements within the tender. So you can see those on the screen there. And there is this underlying commitment as well that all suppliers will provide a minimum of 1% of their annual contract value in terms of social value. And CHIC has a dedicated social value manager who will liaise with each supplier to confirm delivery of their contribution. So coming on to reporting requirements from the firms. So you will submit to Kennedy Cater on a monthly basis details of all of your billing. So this means, and there is a template, which is a simple format that captures this information, but details of every invoice that you've submitted through the framework to every CHIC member in the previous month. So it's a rolling monthly requirement. The details are quite straightforward. There's a summary of these here, so it'll be split by lot, brief matter reference and description, the date, who the instructing officer was, and so on, right through to details of the fees that you've invoiced. In addition to that, you'll supply us with a soft copy of each invoice as well. And the reason that we ask for that is so that we can just do some spot checking to support CHIC to make sure that the pricing is accurate. In the template for your monthly returns to us, will be a section as well which will summarize all of the value added and social value benefits that you've provided to members per member in the previous month. And this will link back, as we'll show in a moment, to the reporting of the social value contribution. And there's an underlying expectation that that the management fees that will be payable will apply to any instruction where the pricing through the framework is being applied. And once a month, you'll send that through to us, and we will invoice all of the firms on a quarterly basis for their management fee. So that will be summarized to you, sent to you for your confirmation, and then we'll invoice you for that, and then that will be shared with CHIC. So the information that comes to Kennedy Cater on a monthly basis, we will use that to summarize a report that will go to each member on a monthly basis. So this is, if you like, a flash report, and it will summarize and show your spend on a monthly and a year-to-date basis. It will be split by supplier and by lot. It will be split between fixed fees and hourly rates. We'll also show the savings that have been achieved. And we do that by reference to the discounts that firms submitted in their tenders. So they were asked to provide the discount compared with their standard hourly rates. So that this is used just as a guide only to show the savings that are being achieved per supplier, per lot, and then overall. And of course, the value added and social value benefits that have been provided. We'll spot check the invoices, as I mentioned earlier, just to make sure that there are no anomalies. That if something looks a little bit unusual, we would flag that up with the member, and the member will in the first instance take that to the firm if they thought that there was a query that needed resolving, and only if they're unable to resolve that, and this happens very rarely, would they bring it back to Kennedy Cater to ask for some guidance. So that's how the day-to-day reporting will operate. When we send the flash reports through as well, we always ask members just to give it a sense check as well to make sure that there's nothing unusual that in the values or the split between the lots that looks a little unusual, so that we can deal with that if that is the case. And then once a year, we will meet with each supplier just to discuss the performance of the framework from both sides. So if we've had any feedback from members, this will be an opportunity to discuss it with the firms, but also to get the firms' take on how the framework is operating as well, and if they've got any suggestions about how things can be improved, so that this goes into a continuous improvement cycle. This is a summary of the documents pack that will be distributed hopefully later this week. So there will be an overview of which firms are pointed to each lot, and the lot descriptions. The lot descriptions are quite extensive. They run to probably about a page of A4 for each lot, and that's to help members navigate to the relevant lot. Pricing schedules, I think they're very intuitive, straightforward. It just lists all of the prices supplier by supplier, so that members can easily compare prices and pick the relevant item from the fixed fee schedules or the hourly rates. Contact details. So we have all of those details. We'll just be confirming those with the suppliers this week to see if there are any particular contacts or instructions in relation to the free of charge health service. Details of the client relationship partner, the database of all the value added and social value benefits that are available, a copy of the framework agreement, although whenever we mention that, we also sort of qualify that by saying it's a long document. Kennedy Cater is here to support members in the interpretation of that, so it's probably just as easy to, rather than to go through that, if you've got any queries about the terms and conditions in the framework agreement, to contact us and we can help with that. There's a copy of the call-off order form, which we urge members to use for all instructions, so that that information is captured and it's clear that it's an instruction through framework. And then wrapped around all of that, there is a user guide, and we would send that out typically in the Word format to allow members to dovetail it with any existing internal policies or processes that you might have. For example, if you have any spend limits, or you have some rules as to who isn't allowed to instruct lawyers, that could be built into that. So moving on to, if you like, mobilization and next steps. So for members, before the end of this month, we will be sending the framework directory documents with the current framework, and to offer to meet with all users over the next few weeks to explain the features and benefits of the framework. So as soon as you get that and you've had a chance to look at it, and if you're an existing user, there are some changes that, like the lot structure, for example, that we can talk you through. And we also invite you to promote the framework, both internally, which I think is very important, because some members are quite large organizations. There are different areas within the businesses that require legal services, so promoting it internally so that as many areas of the business of using the framework and using it effectively is important. An induction session with as many colleagues as possible is a great way to do that, and is something that can be repeated through the life of the framework as well, just to remind people how it will operate, and to help with new members of staff that are using the framework as well. All organizations are very fluid. And then for the suppliers, we do have a number of new suppliers to the framework, which we're very pleased to have. And we will be asking you to join us for a little induction session as well about how the MMI reporting operates. Needless to say, if any other firms that are on the current framework and perhaps are already familiar with that would like to do that as well, that's absolutely fine. But I think it's important, particularly for new suppliers, that we do that as soon as possible, so that before the first cycle comes in, although we have a bit of time, because that would be the July billing, which wouldn't be reported until August, that we go through that. And then finally, this is just a list of the key contacts. So you've got me there at the top. Richard deals with much of the day-to-day operation of the framework. Graham will be the contact for reporting of the MMI reporting. So both in terms of receiving the data and sending the reports out as well. And then Lena will send out the weekly newsletter and liaise with all the suppliers to collect the new training opportunities. So I think that's all I have. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and return to John.
Excellent, thank you, Tim. Comprehensive run through, lots of information there, and to Hadi for your presentation beforehand. We have a few minutes for questions, and we have a few in the Q&A, which I'll go to in a sec. Just one point to add about people. CHIC's member services team, which you may have seen on the structure earlier, there's half a dozen members of that team who manage the front-facing relationship on behalf of CHIC with members. So often queries or requests to use the framework will come in through those individuals. They will then be passed through to Kennedy Cater, who will pick them up from that point. So if you have colleagues who have regular contact with CHIC through another function in your organisation, then for members, then we will make sure that those connections are appropriately made. So turning to the questions, one I think you answered about 2 minutes after the question was posted, which was, when can we expect to receive the directory? And you said should be by the end of this week. Is that correct, Tim?
Yes.
Okay.
That's right. Yeah.
So hopefully we'll answer that one.
Early next week at the latest.
Okay. Next one is, where are the completed instruction forms sent, and how do members know that this has been forwarded to Kennedy Cater for including in the management reports?
Richard, do you want to pick that one up?
Yeah, so the instruction forms are not sent to Kennedy Cater, but we would recommend that you send them anyway. We will look to incorporate a way where we can keep a record through perhaps CHIC's portal of the instruction form, so we can marry those up with the invoices that we are sent. We generally just receive notice of each instruction through the back end, through the recording of the invoicing. But we will be looking into a way in which we can marry that up with the initial instruction. And we would encourage every user of the framework to capture each instruction in the instruction form at the time of the instruction, if possible, or at least after the instruction is made, to capture what the agreed fee is, and whether there are any conditions of that fee.
Good, thank you, Richard. And if attendees have more questions, we'll circulate the slides, and your email addresses are provided in there. Next question is about management information. So the question is on the management information reports. They don't include the instructing officer's name. Can that be reinforced in the new framework? So for internal checks and audits.
Yeah, that's just that. There is room for that, and if that's not being recorded, that's just an oversight on the part of the firm and on the part of us as well. So we'll remedy that, and obviously go back to each firm who doesn't provide that information and request that again.
Okay, thank you. That's clear. And last question that's been posted is in the weekly newsletters circulated to members. Do you include articles published by the firm, or is it just set out training opportunities or webinars?
Yeah, it's everything. So it's training, and we'll obviously highlight any new events, but we'll also include anything. So if it's team profiles, case reports, details of other opportunities, any webinars, or any there's no news too small for us to include within there. So it's anything that the firm would like to get out to the CHIC members. We'll include that under the relevant lot.
Okay, thank you, Richard. And more widely, in terms of communication with our members, on a monthly basis, we issue a publication called CHIC, which is published through email, so it goes out to about 12,000 individuals. So both in your organisations, if you want to receive it, and we haven't got everybody's email addresses, please let us know. And if you have client member contacts who may be interested, we're happy to add them. The purpose of it is to communicate more widely what we're doing at CHIC, but there's an opportunity within it for any of our supply chain partners from any of our frameworks or DPS to publish articles on what they're working on at the moment, areas of interest. So we're very happy to receive content from any of you. If you've got something that you think it would be of interest to any of our members. So please get in touch if you want further information about that. So we would welcome it. And if you want to chat about any of it, those of you who a week today will be in hopefully sunny Manchester for the housing conference, we will have a CHIC stand. So please do drop in and have a chat with us, and we will try and answer any further questions you may have. And while I've been talking, we have a further question, which is back to the weekly newsletter. Is the weekly newsletter sent to suppliers too, Richard?
It's not, because it includes well, potentially sensitive information from the other suppliers. So the amount of redacting we would have to do would simply make it pointless in sending it to suppliers. But we can send a template to suppliers if they would like to see what it looks like. But it is a very straightforward newsletter. But we can liaise with suppliers on what it looks like. The newsletter goes out every Friday around midday. So as long as we can get your news by Friday morning, then that will be included in Friday's newsletter.
Brilliant, thank you. So I think that concludes all the questions that have been posted. So just a few closing remarks from me. Tim talked about fee. The way consortia are funded, some say it's free, and it's not. Nothing's free, unfortunately, but it is free to join. CHIC is free to join as a consortium. Any of our members or new members can join. We recover our costs. We're not for profit through transaction fees applied to every transaction that is contracted through CHIC, whatever it might be. When we started CHIC 15 years ago, our average fee was 8%. Our average fee is now sub 2%. So as growth has taken place, we've been able to reduce the fee. When we started the legal services framework, the fee was 6%. That's now down to 4%, and that's in line with our other sort of professional services, which is now that for new work is the highest fee that we charge. We justify that because, and we've tracked this since day one, there are savings for members and for bidders, for supply chain partners, because we're doing kind of the heavy lifting of the procurement with you. So there's less time and effort put into the procurement activities, but also through the aggregation of buying, tendered prices, in everything that we do. And we, in the asset management world, have quite a range of services, splitting materials from labour and so on. So again, we're able to track that over time. So the net cost to our members, and this is key to an organisation like CHIC, is less than the cost of participating. So we're quite clear, there is a fee, we're clear about what it is, and it's built into the prices through all our supply chain partners. Second point to make is about, many of you will know about constructing the gold standard, which is a report commissioned by Government Office written by Professor David Mosey, published at the end of 2022, which is trying to up the game effectively of framework establishment and management for public contracting authorities. We are a participant on the Constructing Excellence Working Group, and we're currently going through a verification process, independent verification process, to kind of test us to make sure that insofar as we can, we are going to be compliant with constructing the gold standard expectations. And there's 24 recommendations if you've not read that report. So we are very clear about the standards that we want to achieve and adhere to as a contracting authority. So that's kind of background. Just to wrap up, first of all, to say thank you very much to Hadi, Tim, for the presentations. Thank you to Richard and Sam for joining the panel. You got off lightly, Sam, no questions. I'd like to reiterate Adi's request that if you are in that right-hand column on her slide, not yet having signed your framework agreement, please do so. And if it's kind of got lost in the electronic mail room in your firm, could you try and find it or let us know so that we can reissue it? It is issued electronically, but we would like to get the frameworks all signed so we can all move forward together. That would be good. So finally, thank you to all of you who've joined us for participating in the procurement process. We know there's a lot of work, and we know from what some of you have said, you found some of those questions a little bit testing, but they were questions posed effectively by our members, real situations that they wanted to understand, and therefore form part of the quality bids. So thank you for taking the time and effort to respond to those in the detail that you did. Congratulations on being awarded framework status, and we at CHIC and our colleagues at Kennedy Cater look forward with our members to working with you on the framework over the next 4 years. So thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your day. Goodbye.